At the heart of the Eternal City, where dawn gilds stone and silence keeps its vigil, lies a vault of memories older than empires. Behind these doors, centuries have hidden what was never meant to be found. Today, those secrets...
They say that history is written by the victors, but there are stories so powerful, so deeply buried in time, that even the victors dared not tell them. This is one of those stories. It begins not with a crown or a throne, but with 9 weary men standing before the ruins of Jerusalem, their hearts burning with faith, and their eyes fixed upon eternity. It was the year 1119. The dust of the First Crusade still hung in the air, the Holy Land drenched in the blood of thousands. Amid the chaos and ruin, 9 knights gathered upon the sacred hill of the ancient city, men bound by no kingdom, no wealth, only by an oath that would echo through 1,000 years. Their leader was Hugues de Payens, a man of unwavering devotion and impossible vision. Before him stood the remnants of the Temple of Solomon, a place once said to hold relics of unimaginable power. There, in that desolate place, they swore a vow to live and die as guardians of the Holy Land, to protect pilgrims traveling to Jerusalem, and to serve Christ with their swords and their souls. They called themselves the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon. The world would come to know them by another name, the Knights Templar. In the beginning, they were nothing but a brotherhood of poverty. 9 men sharing food, horses, and faith. They wore no jewels, no gold, no banners. Yet behind their humility burned something greater than ambition: destiny. For under the sands of Jerusalem lay secrets that would change the world forever. The knights took residence beneath the Temple Mount, a site revered by prophets and feared by kings. It was here, beneath the ruins of Solomon's temple, that they began to dig. What they sought, no one truly knew. Some said they searched for relics of Christ, others whispered of scrolls written in a forgotten tongue. But the truth was darker and far more dangerous. For nearly a decade, they disappeared from history. No one saw them, no one heard their names. Then suddenly they returned, different, transformed. The once poor knights spoke now with authority, their eyes sharper, their mission renewed. They had found something beneath those stones, something that gave them knowledge, power, and perhaps divine favor. In 1129, the Templars were officially recognized by the Church. With the blessing of Pope Honorius II, they became the most powerful military order of the age. They wore white mantles to symbolize purity, marked with a red cross, the blood of Christ and the price of salvation. They were monks and warriors, confessors and killers, men of prayer and men of war. Soon, their legend spread like wildfire. They built fortresses across Europe and the Holy Land. They rode into battle with unmatched courage, never retreating, never surrendering. To their enemies, they were angels of death. To the Church, they were soldiers of God. And to the people, they became something even greater, symbols of divine will on earth. But behind the glory of their battles and the holiness of their vows, something else was growing. Whispers began to spread through the courts of kings and the corridors of cathedrals. The Templars had grown too rich, too powerful, too secretive. They had learned to move gold across continents without ever touching it. They invented a system of trust and code, a system that would become the foundation of modern banking. Kings deposited their fortunes with the Templars, and with a single seal, they could retrieve them anywhere in Europe or the Holy Land. Power shifted quietly, almost invisibly. In an age ruled by swords, the Templars ruled with paper, seal, and faith. Even kings owed them debt. Even popes relied on their resources. And yet, no one knew the full extent of their reach. It was said that beneath every Templar fortress lay tunnels leading to hidden vaults. Some claimed these vaults contained gold. Others said they guarded knowledge forbidden by the Church itself. books and scrolls said to reveal the true nature of God, man, and the heavens. There were even whispers that the Templars had uncovered relics older than Christianity itself, objects once belonging to Solomon, Moses, or perhaps something beyond human comprehension. What truly bound them together was not their wealth or their vows. It was the secret they carried. A secret so immense that only a few within the highest ranks ever knew its full truth. And whatever it was, it made them untouchable. The Templars answered to no king, no emperor, and no bishop. Their allegiance was to God alone, or so it seemed. In truth, their greatest protector sat upon the throne of Rome itself. The Pope's seal gave them freedom from all earthly law. They were exempt from taxes, from feudal service, from judgment. They moved across nations like ghosts, everywhere and nowhere at once. Their red cross became a symbol of fear and fascination. When their army charged into battle, enemies often fled before their swords even struck. For they fought not for glory, but for eternity. They believed that death in battle was not an end but an ascension, a passage to the divine light they served. And yet, every light casts a shadow. As their power expanded, so did their arrogance. Their coffers overflowed with gold. Their ships filled the harbors of the Mediterranean. They advised kings, financed wars, and built cathedrals that still stand today. But even as their influence reached its height, the whispers grew louder. Some within the church began to fear what the Templars had become. Could men who dug beneath the Temple of Solomon truly remain servants of God? What knowledge did they bring back from the depths of the holy city? Why did they keep their rituals hidden, their ranks secret, their oaths unbroken even under death? The more the church blessed them, the more mysterious they became. Their archives were closed, their meetings private, their symbols veiled in secrecy. To the outside world, they were holy knights. To those who looked closer, they were something else entirely. Behind their white mantles and crimson crosses lay a secret purpose, one that reached far beyond Jerusalem or Rome. A mission that had nothing to do with protecting pilgrims or defending faith. A mission that had begun the moment they stepped beneath the Temple Mount and found whatever it was that waited for them in the dark. It was said that they carried that secret back to Europe, hidden within their vaults, encrypted in their symbols, and guarded by silence. Whatever they found beneath the Temple of Solomon would become the foundation of their order, their faith, and their eventual downfall. For no secret remains buried forever. And as the Templars rose to unimaginable power, they set in motion a chain of events that would one day bring the wrath of kings and the judgment of the church upon them all. This was only the beginning, the rise of the Temple Knights. When the 9 knights first descended into the shadows beneath the Temple Mount, no one knew what they truly sought. Officially, they were sworn to protect Christian pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. But there were no roads beneath the earth, no travelers in the darkness. What they sought down there was something else entirely, something older than the stones themselves. The ancient ruins of Jerusalem had been conquered and rebuilt countless times. Romans, Persians, Byzantines, and now Crusaders, all had left their mark. But beneath those layers of civilization lay the heart of a mystery whispered about for centuries. The resting place of Solomon's temple, the seat of wisdom and the cradle of divine knowledge. Legends told of vast chambers filled with treasures and relics beyond measure. The Ark of the Covenant, containing the 10 Commandments written by the hand of God. The rod of Aaron that bloomed in the desert, and ancient scrolls that revealed the secrets of creation itself. To most, these were myths, holy fantasies buried by time. But to the Templars, they were a map. For 9 years, the knights worked in secrecy beneath the Temple Mount. No chronicler recorded their activities. No pilgrim spoke of their work. Yet in that silence, they unearthed something that changed them. When they emerged, They no longer resembled humble monks, but men who carried the weight of revelation. What did they find beneath Jerusalem? The church never said. The knights never confessed. But soon after, their order exploded in power and prestige, as if propelled by an unseen force. Some historians claim they discovered ancient scrolls written in Hebrew, Aramaic, or an even older tongue, perhaps Egyptian. Others believe they found relics from Solomon's reign, golden artifacts inscribed with symbols of stars and serpents. And then there are those who whisper of something far more dangerous, a truth that contradicted the church itself. Whatever it was, it became the foundation of the Templars' secret knowledge, their hidden doctrine, passed only among the highest initiates. A secret so vast that it would one day terrify popes and kings alike. In the decades that followed, the Templars' return to Europe changed men. They spoke of visions, of a light that burned beneath the earth, of knowledge that transcended faith. They built cathedrals whose architecture mirrored celestial geometry, structures aligned with constellations, sun, and moon. Their designs echoed something far older than Christianity, a code written into the stones themselves. The most famous of these was the Temple Church in London, built in 1185, its circular form inspired not by Gothic tradition, but by the Dome of the Rock, the very shrine under which they had once dug. The message was clear. The Templars carried Jerusalem within them. Wherever they went, their symbols and seals, traces of their hidden discovery began to appear. The Red Cross, once simple, now carried esoteric meanings. The twin knights on a single horse. Poverty, yes, but also duality. Light and darkness, body and spirit, heaven and earth. Some believed the Templars had rediscovered ancient Gnostic teachings, long condemned by the Church, which taught that divinity resided within man, not above him. This was heresy, but it was also power. And so, beneath the blessing of the Vatican, the Templars expanded their influence. Their fortresses dotted the world from the deserts of Palestine to the forests of France. They became the elite soldiers of God, sworn to defend the faith, but also to preserve something deeper, something secret. Pilgrims flocked to the Holy Land under their protection. Wealth poured into their coffers. Kings entrusted them with entire treasuries, confident that no force could breach a Templar vault. But behind the stone walls and guarded doors, they were not counting coins. They were preserving knowledge in the crypts of their commanderies. Manuscripts written in strange languages were kept under lock and key. Templar scribes copied them by candlelight, guarding them as if they were scripture. To this day, many believe these writings contained blueprints for sacred geometry, astronomical alignments, or even the hidden name of God itself, a key to unlocking divine power. As their wealth grew, so did their network. The Templars built a communication system that spanned continents, using ciphers and coded messages to move information faster than any kingdom could imagine. Their ships sailed freely across the Mediterranean, flying no national flag but the cross of the temple. They were an army, a bank, and a brotherhood, but above all, they were keepers of a secret the world was not ready to know. Yet power and secrecy breed suspicion. By the mid-12th century, murmurs began to spread within the church itself. Some priests whispered that the Templars no longer prayed to the same God, that their ceremonies included strange symbols, words not found in any Christian liturgy. Rumors told of skulls placed upon altars, of idols shaped like human heads, of a name spoken only in darkness, Baphomet. The church dismissed these tales as superstition, but behind closed doors, fear began to grow. The Templars had become too independent, too wealthy, too knowledgeable. And knowledge, especially forbidden knowledge, was more dangerous than any sword. Still, the Vatican could not afford to oppose them. The Crusades continued, and Europe's faith needed warriors. The Templars were untouchable, answerable only to the Pope, protected by divine law. To attack them would be to attack the Church itself. So the whispers were buried, the suspicions ignored, and the Templars, confident in their sanctity, continued their work. But in their quiet moments, even they must have felt it, that the light they carried from Jerusalem was both gift and curse. For beneath every revelation lies temptation. To possess knowledge that can reshape the world is to hold a power no mortal should wield. Their legacy in Jerusalem did not fade. Excavations continued under their supervision, fortifications expanded around the city, and sacred relics were transported west. Some of these relics reached the Vatican itself, escorted under the highest secrecy, sealed with the cross of the temple. Others vanished without record, lost to history or hidden by choice. There are accounts, fragmentary, suppressed, of a caravan that left Jerusalem at night, heading toward Acre, the last Christian stronghold on the coast. Within it were crates of gold, silver, and something wrapped in linen, guarded by knights who would die before letting anyone see it. That convoy vanished. Neither the Templars nor the Church ever spoke of it again. What they carried from beneath Jerusalem remains one of the greatest mysteries of history. Was it treasure, ancient technology, lost scripture, or something beyond human comprehension? Something that proved divinity was not the property of any faith, but a universal truth. The answers may never be known, but one thing is certain. Whatever the Templars found beneath the Temple of Solomon became the core of their power, the reason for their rise, and ultimately, the seed of their destruction. For secrets this great cannot remain silent forever, and while the Church celebrated their victories, while kings borrowed their gold, a darker current was already forming beneath the surface: jealousy, fear, greed. The same forces that had built the Templars' empire would one day conspire to tear it down. But that day had not yet come. For now, their banners still flew above castles and cities. Their ships still ruled the seas. Their prayers still echoed in stone halls. And their secret, whatever it was, still lay buried beneath the sands of Jerusalem, whispering through time like the breath of the past itself. It was the beginning of an age of faith, power, and hidden knowledge. An age that would soon collide with the wrath of kings and the silence of God. When the Templars emerged from the shadows of Jerusalem, they carried not only treasures and relics, but something far more valuable: influence. Their victories in the Holy Land made them heroes. Their discipline earned them respect, and their vast wealth granted them power beyond the imagination of kings. But it was their relationship with the Vatican that would transform them from warriors into legends. In the heart of Rome, Pope Innocent II recognized in the Templars a divine opportunity, a brotherhood untouched by greed or corruption, bound by vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, yet capable of achieving what armies and monarchs could not. And so, in the year 1139, the Pope issued a decree that would alter the balance of power forever. Omni datum optimum. It declared the Templars answerable only to the Pope himself. No king, no bishop, no earthly power could command them. Their lands were tax-free, their movements unrestricted, and their authority sacred. Overnight, they became an independent empire within Christendom, a spiritual state of their own, with the Vatican as its silent partner. This alliance was not built on faith alone. It was a pact of necessity. The Crusades were bleeding Europe dry. The Church needed soldiers who would fight for God without questioning Rome's motives. The Templars needed legitimacy to mask their growing wealth and knowledge. Together, they formed what some historians call the first true secret alliance in Western history, a fusion of sword and cross, faith and finance. From their headquarters in Jerusalem and later in Paris, the Templars became the bankers of the medieval world. Kings deposited their fortunes in Templar vaults, safe from war and theft. Pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land could deposit their coins in a Templar preceptory in London and withdraw the same sum in Acre, centuries before modern banking was even conceived. Their methods were revolutionary, using coded receipts, numerical symbols, and an early form of encryption. The Templars moved money and information across thousands of miles with unmatched efficiency. Even the Vatican relied on them to transport donations, relics, and messages between continents. The Church's most sacred missions often began with a Templar escort. But behind this alliance lay something deeper: mutual dependence and mutual fear. The popes knew that the Templars had uncovered something in Jerusalem, something powerful enough to rewrite the story of faith. The Templars, in turn, knew that the Vatican's blessing was both a shield and a leash. Each needed the other, and each feared betrayal in secret councils. Behind the stone walls of Rome, the popes and the Grand Masters met to discuss matters never recorded in Scripture. What relics had been found beneath Solomon's temple? What ancient knowledge had been unearthed? Could it be used, or should it remain buried forever? Some chroniclers suggest that the Templars revealed fragments of what they had discovered, scrolls describing the lineage of ancient kings, hidden genealogies connecting the house of David to the bloodline of Christ himself. Others speak of lost gospels, texts that spoke not of obedience, but of enlightenment, teaching that the divine spark resided within every human being. Such ideas were dangerous. They could shatter the foundation of the Church's authority. Yet the Vatican could not destroy them, for the Templars were too valuable and too loved by the people. Instead, a fragile understanding emerged. The Templars would keep their secrets, and in return, the Church would grant them freedom. For more than a century, this alliance flourished. Templar commanderies rose across Europe, in France, Portugal, England, and Spain. Each served as both fortress and monastery, a place of training, worship, and finance. Their ships carried crusaders, pilgrims, and sacred cargo. Their black and white banner, the Bucient, flew above every battlefield, a symbol of courage and purity. Yet beneath the armor and discipline, the Templars were changing. Wealth breeds questions. Knowledge breeds doubt. Within their ranks, a second order began to form, men less concerned with battle and more drawn to the hidden sciences. They studied astronomy, geometry, alchemy. They traced the paths of the stars, built temples aligned with solstices, and whispered that the true language of God was written not in words, but in numbers and light and the cathedrals they helped design, like Chartres, Notre Dame, and Rosslyn. Their influence can still be seen. Symbols of the sun and moon, the rose and cross, the labyrinth and the serpent. To the faithful, these were decorations. To the initiated, they were messages, fragments of a code passed down from the wisdom of Solomon, preserved through the ages. Meanwhile, the Vatican continued to expand its own dominion. Each crusade brought new lands, new souls, and new riches. But with each victory, the popes grew more cautious of the order they had empowered. The Templars' independence had become absolute. They no longer asked permission to act. Their fortresses were sovereign ground, their oaths sealed by God alone. In France, King Philip IV, a man both devout and ambitious, watched with envy as the Templars' coffers overflowed. His own kingdom was drowning in debt, much of it owed to the very knights who once fought beside him. The Pope, now Clement V, found himself caught between the power of the crown and the pride of the temple. In the year 1306, as Europe faced unrest and the Crusades faltered, the alliance that had once united faith and power began to fracture. Whispers returned, darker than before, that the Templars worshipped idols, that they spat on the cross, that they denied Christ. Most historians dismiss these accusations as lies, weapons forged by Philip to justify seizing their wealth. But some say the king had learned a terrible truth, one so dangerous it could not be spoken aloud. Perhaps the Templars' discoveries beneath the Temple Mount had not only threatened the Church, but the very idea of divine authority itself. If men could hold the power of God in their own hands, if the line between heaven and earth could be crossed, then no king, no pope could ever claim to rule by divine right again. And so, the sacred alliance that had once built the mightiest brotherhood in Christendom began to turn to in secret letters. Pope Clement sought to restrain the order, to bring them under papal control once more. But the Templars refused. Their Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, remained loyal to Rome but not submissive to it. He knew that to yield was to betray everything they had built, the knowledge, the faith, the brotherhood. Still, the Vatican hesitated. It feared open conflict, the scandal of destroying its own creation. So it waited while the King of France plotted in silence. By dawn on Friday, October 13th, 1307, the alliance that had begun in holiness ended in blood. But that is a story for another night. For now, remember this: the holy alliance between the Vatican and the Knights Templar was never built on faith alone. It was built on fear, the fear of truth, the fear of knowledge, and the fear of men who had seen too much. Because sometimes what lies beneath the temple is not a treasure, but a revelation, and revelations have a price. For nearly 2 centuries, the Knights Templar had stood as pillars of faith, courage, and secrecy. They had fought for God, built empires, and shaped the destiny of kings. But by the dawn of the 14th century, their glory had become their doom. Power invites envy, wealth provokes greed, and secrets, when left too long in darkness, begin to rot. France, once their strongest ally, became the stage for their destruction. King Philip IV, known as Philip the Fair, was a man of beauty and pride, but beneath his calm face burned a heart of iron. His kingdom was drowning in debt, and his ambitions were vast. He owed fortunes to the Templars, who had financed his wars, protected his treasures, and even guarded his throne. But now the king wanted more than gold, he wanted control. The Templars, he realized, were a power greater than his own. They answered to no crown, no bishop, not even to him. Their fortresses stood like silent fortresses of defiance, and their coffers overflowed with gold while his treasury ran dry. To destroy them would mean seizing everything they owned: land, ships, silver, and secrets. But how does one destroy the most sacred order in Christendom? With whispers and fear, Philip began weaving a web of lies. His spies and informants spread rumors across Europe that the Templars worshipped demons, spat upon the cross, and performed dark rituals in secret, that they denied Christ and adored a mysterious idol, a head called Baphomet, said to grant wisdom and power. The accusations were absurd, but in a world ruled by faith and fear, absurdity was enough. Behind the walls of the Vatican, Pope Clement V trembled between loyalty and terror. He owed his papacy to Philip, a king too dangerous to defy. The Pope hesitated, sending letters to the Templar Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, summoning him to discuss reforms within the order. Molay, unaware of the trap being set, came to France in good faith, bringing with him the Templars' most sacred documents, convinced that dialogue could restore trust. But on the night of Thursday, October 12, 1307, the fate of the Templars was sealed as Paris slept. The king signed a secret order by dawn the next morning. Friday, October 13th, every Templar in France was to be arrested. The date would live forever in superstition. When the sun rose over the Seine, soldiers stormed the Templar. Preceptories, gates were smashed open. Men dragged from their beds, scrolls and gold seized in the name of the king. In Paris alone, over 100 knights were imprisoned before noon. Across the land, thousands more were captured, brothers who had once faced armies without fear, now chained like criminals. The charges were read aloud: heresy, blasphemy, corruption, idolatry, and the unspeakable sin of mocking the cross. The interrogations began immediately. Torture chambers filled with the cries of men who had sworn vows of silence. Iron chains, heated tongs, and wheels of pain turned beneath the castles of France. Under agony, some confessed to whatever their captors demanded: that they had kissed the feet of idols, denied Christ, and worshipped false gods. The Church, desperate to save its image, stood aside. Pope Clement hesitated, but Philip's pressure was relentless. He sent emissaries to Rome, demanding papal sanction for the arrests. Within months, the Pope, cornered and fearful, issued a papal bull legitimizing the trials. The alliance between the Vatican and the Temple, forged in faith and sealed in blood, was shattered. For 7 years, the Templars endured imprisonment, torture, and humiliation. Many died without trial. Others were burned at the stake to purify their souls. Their vast estates were seized, their ships vanished, their treasuries emptied. But one question haunted the king. Where was the treasure of the Templars? Despite all his raids, Philip found only fragments: a few chests of silver, scattered documents, relics of no great value. The legendary hoard, said to contain gold, relics of the Holy Land, and secret knowledge from beneath Solomon's temple, had disappeared. Some claimed that before the arrests, a small fleet of Templar ships had set sail from the port of La Rochelle, bound for destinations unknown. Others whispered that the treasure had been buried in Scotland or hidden in the crypts of cathedrals across Europe. When Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master, was finally brought before the court, he denied all accusations. His face, pale from years in darkness, showed neither fear nor hatred, only disappointment that he declared before his judges. Our order has been betrayed not by heresy, but by envy. We have served God faithfully, and for this we are condemned. His words echoed through the hall, and even his captors felt their hearts tremble. But the verdict was already written. On March 18, 1314, in the shadow of Notre Dame Cathedral, Jacques de Molay and his closest brother, Geoffroy de Charny, were led to the stake. The air was thick with smoke and prayer. The crowd gathered in silence, waiting for a confession that never came. As the flames rose, Molay lifted his voice, not in despair, but in defiance. Pope Clement, King Philip, before this year ends, you will answer before God. Witnesses say he died with a calm smile, his eyes fixed on the setting sun. Within months, both men were dead. Philip from a sudden stroke, Clement from illness. Many called it coincidence. Others called it the Templars' curse. But though the flames consumed their bodies, they could not erase their legacy. The Templar ships that escaped were never found. The gold, the relics, the scrolls all vanished. Yet strange symbols began to appear across Europe. The Red Cross, carved into stones and hidden in manuscripts. Secret brotherhoods arose, claiming to guard the Templars' knowledge. The Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, and others who spoke of enlightenment, geometry, and the light of reason. In time, whispers grew into legend, that the Templars had not perished at all, that they had simply gone underground, carrying with them the ancient truths they had sworn to protect. Perhaps they fled to Scotland, under the protection of King Robert the Bruce. Perhaps they sailed across the Atlantic centuries before Columbus, leaving traces in the New World. Symbols carved into stone, maps that defied history. Or perhaps the greatest treasure they left behind was not gold or relics, but knowledge. The idea that faith and science, heaven and earth, were not enemies but reflections of one another. The Vatican, meanwhile, sealed its archives. Documents relating to the Templars were locked away, hidden beneath miles of corridors and guarded by silence. Officially, the order was gone. Unofficially, its shadow lingered. Centuries later, scholars would petition the Church to release the Templar records. When a few fragments were finally revealed, they showed something astonishing: that Pope Clement had privately absolved the Templars of heresy before their deaths. The Church had known their innocence and remained silent. It was not justice, it was politics. And so, the fall of the Templars was not merely the end of a brotherhood. It was the end of an age, the age of sacred warriors, where faith and courage walked hand in hand. But every ending carries a seed of beginning, because the flame that burned Jacques de Molay did not extinguish the light, scattered it into lodges, into cathedrals, into whispers that would echo for centuries. The Templars had fallen, but their secrets were alive, hidden in symbols, preserved in stone, waiting for those who would dare to see. The flames that consumed Jacques de Molay did not end the story of the Templars. They only changed its form. When the smoke of that cursed Friday drifted into the Parisian sky, it carried with it the ashes of an order that had once shaped empires, and the whispers of a secret that refused to die. The world believed the Knights Templar were gone, but in truth, their spirit was only going underground, carried by those who escaped the grasp of kings and the judgment of popes. In the days following the mass arrests, many Templars vanished without a trace. Entire garrisons fled from France, melting into the countryside, disguised as pilgrims, monks, or merchants. Some crossed into the safety of Portugal, where King Denis I, sympathetic to their cause, refused to persecute them. Instead, he founded a new order, the Order of Christ, and quietly placed former Templars within its ranks. Under a different name and a new banner, they continued their work, building fortresses, mapping the stars, and training explorers who would one day sail beyond the known world. Others fled north to Scotland, a land beyond the reach of papal authority. There, amid the mists and stone of the Highlands, legends say the Templars found refuge with Robert the Bruce, the outlaw king who had defied both pope and crown. In gratitude, the exiled knights are said to have fought alongside him at the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. The same year their Grand Master met his fiery end. It is said that on that battlefield, when the Scots were nearly defeated, a mysterious force of armored riders appeared from the fog, their banners unmarked but their crosses glowing faintly red in the dawn light. They charged the English lines, turning the tide of the battle. When victory was won, the knights vanished, leaving no trace. Some called them ghosts. Others whispered their true name, Templars. Whatever their fate, their influence endured. From the shadowed hills of Scotland to the shores of Portugal, they carried with them more than swords. They carried knowledge. The Templars had always been seekers of truth, students of the divine geometry that binds heaven and earth. In exile, they turned inward, preserving what they had found beneath Solomon's temple: the blueprints of sacred architecture, the secrets of proportion and light, and perhaps even fragments of forgotten scripture. Across Europe, new cathedrals rose bearing their marks. The spiral patterns, the coded symbols, the alignment with celestial bodies. In the heart of these designs lay a silent language, a message not written in ink, but in stone. One of these places, Rosslyn Chapel, built in the 15th century near Edinburgh, became a focus of wonder. Its walls are carved with hundreds of symbols: stars, vines, angels, and crosses entwined in impossible patterns. Some scholars claim it encodes maps of the night sky. Others see depictions of corn and aloe, plants unknown in Europe before Columbus. Could it be that the Templars or their descendants had already crossed the Atlantic long before history admits? If so, what were they searching for? And what did they leave behind? From Portugal, ships bearing the cross of the Order of Christ began to explore the oceans. The captains, men like Henry the Navigator, were tutored by scholars and mariners whose lineage traced back to the Templar Brotherhood. They carried not just compasses and charts, but a belief that God's creation was not to be feared, but understood. This spirit of exploration would one day ignite the age of discovery. The same symbols that had adorned Templar commanderies appeared on the sails of explorers bound for unknown lands. Some say even Christopher Columbus carried maps derived from Templar archives, maps showing islands and coastlines yet uncharted. Perhaps this was the final mission of the Templar legacy, to take the search for divine truth beyond the boundaries of the old world. But their influence was not confined to exploration alone. In the centuries that followed, secret societies began to emerge, groups that claimed descent from the Templars, guarding their wisdom under new names. The Rosicrucians, the Freemasons, and others whose rituals echoed the oaths of the old Brotherhood. Their meeting halls bore the same symbols once carved in Templar stone: the compass and square, the all-seeing eye, the blazing star. Their teachings spoke of balance, reason, and enlightenment, ideals that would eventually shape revolutions and new nations. Some even suggest that the founding of modern states, including the United States of America, carried echoes of the Templar dream: freedom from tyranny, guided by divine order and sacred geometry. Washington, D.C., with its streets laid in precise angles, its monuments aligned with celestial points, stands as a modern cathedral to that vision. But where truth ends and myth begins, no one can say. Still, across time, the Church could not entirely silence their memory. The Vatican, though claiming to have erased the Templars, kept their records sealed within its secret archives. The world was told the order had perished in disgrace. Yet in hidden halls beneath Rome, their name was still whispered. It wasn't until the 21st century that fragments of those sealed documents, known as the Chinon parchment, were rediscovered. They revealed that Pope Clement V had secretly absolved the Templars of heresy in 1308, long before their execution. In other words, the Church knew they were innocent. For centuries, humanity had believed a lie. The Templars were never condemned for faithlessness, but for possessing knowledge too powerful for their time. So what was this knowledge? Some believe it was spiritual, an understanding of the divine that transcended doctrine. Others insist it was scientific, the rediscovery of ancient technologies or astronomical truths buried since the days of Babylon. The more skeptical say it was simply financial maps of hidden wealth, coded ledgers of gold and land. But for those who look deeper, the answer seems to be something more profound. The Templars had uncovered a connection between the material and the spiritual, a bridge between God and man, expressed through geometry, architecture, and sacred proportion. They saw the divine not as a distant power, but as a pattern that lived within all creation, the music of the spheres, the golden ratio that echoed from atoms to stars. To the Church, such an idea was dangerous. It meant that the divine was not confined to the altar or the scripture, but woven into the world itself. That was the heresy they could never forgive. And so, the Templars' legacy became a whisper, passed from builder to builder, artist to artist, thinker to thinker. Through the Renaissance, their influence resurfaced in art and architecture, hidden behind allegory and symbol. Leonardo da Vinci's sketches, the cathedrals of Florence, the hidden geometry of Michelangelo's designs, all carried traces of their secret faith in reason and form. In time, even the Vatican came to depend on what it once feared: the mathematical precision, the harmony of light and space that filled its cathedrals. These were gifts of Templar philosophy. The Church absorbed their legacy even as it denied their existence. Today, when we gaze upon the great cathedrals of Europe, When we trace the patterns of stars or marvel at the precision of ancient monuments, we are touching the same mystery the Templars sought to preserve. That truth is not a possession, but a pursuit. The Templars may have fallen, but their dream of unity between heaven and earth, between reason and faith, endures. Perhaps that is their greatest treasure. Not gold, not relics, but the courage to seek. For in every age, there are those who still follow their path, not in armor or in battle, but in mind and spirit. Scholars, builders, dreamers, those who believe, as the Templars once did, that the divine can be measured in the geometry of creation. The hidden legacy of the Templars is not buried beneath stone. It lives within the human desire to understand. For 7 long centuries, historians, treasure hunters, and secret societies have searched tirelessly for the lost wealth, forbidden documents, and sacred relics once guarded by the Knights Templar. According to legend, their legacy did not disappear with the fires that consumed Jacques de Molay. In fact, many believe that was only the beginning. When the flames rose over Paris and the Grand Master of the Templars drew his final breath, a powerful curse was spoken, a curse that echoed through kingdoms. God will judge our killers, and our truth will rise from the ashes. From that moment on, strange events began to unfold across Europe. Ships once belonging to the knights vanished from ports in the middle of the night. Carts heavily guarded by hooded riders were seen disappearing into the mountains of Scotland. Monks in remote monasteries whispered of locked vaults hidden beneath their sanctuaries. The question that haunts historians to this day remains unanswered. Where did the Knights Templars' secrets go? Many believe the answer lies beyond their symbols, in a network of routes stretching across continents. A web crafted with precision so that no treasure, no relic, no sacred document would ever fall into the hands of those who betrayed them. Scroll the escape from France months before King Philip IV launched his coordinated arrests. The Templar leadership had already sensed a shift in the wind. Spies hidden within the royal court warned them that the king's greed had grown uncontrollable. His debt to the Templars was suffocating him, and he would destroy the order before ever repaying a single coin. Jacques de Molay sent urgent orders using encoded parchments distributed only to the most loyal knights. Evacuate the treasures. Scatter the archives. Bury the truth. Under the cover of darkness, the temple fleet set sail. But these ships never reached their declared destinations. No records exist of them arriving anywhere. It is as if the sea itself swallowed them whole. But history, as we know, rarely loses something so important by accident. Crossed swords the Scottish sanctuary at the same time. Robert the Bruce of Scotland had just been excommunicated by the Pope. Cast out by Rome, he had no allegiance to the Vatican nor to the French king. When the Templars, fugitives of faith, fled north, Scotland welcomed them not as outlaws, but as brothers. Many historians believe that the Templars fought alongside Robert the Bruce at the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. Warriors clad in white mantles without insignias appeared suddenly as the tide of the battle turned. Their arrival shifted the fate of a nation, and then, as mysteriously as they came, they vanished again. Where? Some claim into the depths of Scotland's ancient castles. Others say into the wild, where stone cairns hide entrances to underground chambers sealed for centuries. Sailboat toward the New World? There is a theory more daring and terrifying for the Vatican. Symbols identical to the Templar cross have been found carved into ancient stones in North America, long before Columbus set foot on its shores. How did they get there? Secret maps recovered from monastic archives indicate that the Templars possessed navigational knowledge far more advanced than any European kingdom at the time. Were they seeking a new realm? A hidden land where Rome's influence could never reach them? Some believe they established a lineage, a bloodline protected by oaths older than nations, a seed of a future empire built away from the eyes of kings and popes. Ooh, Moneybag, the treasure no one has found: gold, silver, gems, wealth enough to rule kingdoms. Yet, the greatest treasure of the Templars was not material that it was knowledge, secrets drawn from their excavations beneath the Temple Mount, texts written in forgotten tongues, revelations capable of rewriting human history and shaking the foundations of all major religions. These were stored in sealed chests, protected by cryptic symbols that only initiates could decipher. Anyone else who tried would be struck down not by magic, but by the fanatical loyalty of those sworn to protect the legacy. Open book, the Forbidden Scrolls. Rumors persist of scrolls describing events not recorded in the Bible. Documents asserting that Jesus himself entrusted his teachings to a privileged circle, a lineage of guardians who passed his message in secrecy. If this is true, then the Templars did not merely guard relics of the past. They guarded the very truth of Christianity, truth as powerful as faith itself, truth the Vatican could not allow to surface. Red triangle pointed up. The modern Templar present. Centuries later, new groups emerged claiming to carry the Templar legacy: Freemasons, Rosicrucians, elite political organizations. Some tie these groups to global finance systems and secret government alliances. From Washington, D.C. street layout, to the symbolism carved into European cathedrals, to the emblems printed on modern currency, traces of the Templar mark are everywhere, hiding in plain sight. Perhaps the Templars never truly fell. Perhaps they simply changed their armor, locked with key, the key hidden in time. What if the true Templar archive still exists, buried beneath a cathedral, sealed in a mountain vault, or camouflaged under a modern institution? What if there are coded messages scattered through architecture, art, and sacred geometry, waiting for the right seeker to decipher them? And what if the Vatican knows exactly where the truth is, but has vowed never to reveal it? Hourglass not done. The legacy awakes because secrets, especially divine ones, do not sleep forever. Every century or so, a clue emerges, a fragment of a lost relic, a sealed letter found in the chamber of a forgotten castle, a map burned at the edges but never destroyed. Each discovery draws humanity one step closer to what was hidden, and those who guard the truth begin to stir. The story of the Knights Templar did not end in fire. It continues in silence, in symbols, in shadows, in the hearts of those who still believe in a mission greater than kings and popes. Their legacy lives, and soon the world may face its revelation. For centuries, the Vatican Library has been a place of divine knowledge, a sanctuary of history, faith, and secrets. But beneath it, hidden deep within the catacombs of Rome, lies something far older, something not even the popes themselves fully understand. They call it the Secret Archives, a name that sounds harmless, but those who have glimpsed its true contents know it as something else entirely. The Forbidden Vaults, behind massive bronze doors sealed by papal decree, guarded by Swiss soldiers and invisible technology, lies a collection that could rewrite the story of mankind. No public record describes its depth. No official map marks its chambers, and only a handful of chosen archivists, bound by sacred oaths, are allowed to descend into its darkness. But according to declassified fragments and testimonies smuggled out by priests, the archives hold not just religious texts, but evidence of the Templars' survival and the terrible truth they uncovered. Scroll the letter of 1,539 inches 1539. A Jesuit scholar named Father Antonio del Rossi wrote a letter to the Pope that was never published. The letter was rediscovered in the late 19th century by a librarian who vanished soon after. In it, Father Antonio described finding a sealed chest marked with the Red Cross of the Templars in the lowest level of the Vatican archives. Inside were parchments written in a language he could not fully decipher, and a map that pointed not to Jerusalem, but to Rome itself. The letter ended with one chilling line. "The treasure was never taken from us. It was hidden beneath our own altar." 2 weeks later, his body was found in the Tiber River. Red triangle pointed up the revelation of the hidden chamber. Modern Vatican workers have quietly confirmed that a sublevel exists beneath the archives, one not found on any blueprint. There are rumors of a chamber that vibrates with strange frequencies, as if the stones themselves hum with power. Some claim it holds the Ark of the Covenant. Others believe it is a vast repository of forbidden gospels, texts that reveal the missing years of Christ, and the secret he entrusted to the Templars. One former guard, who later disappeared into exile, wrote, "The Church does not fear heretics. She fears memory, and that may be the ultimate truth. The Vatican's greatest secret is not a treasure, nor a relic, but a memory erased from humanity." Cross Swords: The Return of the Red Cross. In 2019, a research team studying seismic activity near the Vatican discovered an unexplainable hollow cavity beneath St. Peter's Basilica. The pattern of its structure matched medieval Templar architecture. Days later, the lead researcher resigned suddenly, citing personal reasons. Her notes, however, described something extraordinary. Symbols identical to those found on the tomb of Jacques de Molay, burned into the walls themselves, as if seared by light centuries ago. It was as though the past had branded itself onto the heart of the Church. Chains: The Forbidden Codex. The final piece of evidence comes from a mysterious manuscript known only as Codex Veritas, the Book of Truth. Rumored to have been written by surviving Templars in exile, it tells of a revelation discovered beneath the Temple Mount. A discovery so powerful that it shattered their understanding of God, creation, and the Church's authority. The Codex ends with a chilling prophecy. "When the world forgets the light, the keepers shall rise. The buried truth will break its seal, and the Church of Stone will tremble before the Church of the Mind." Fire: The Final Confession. In 1978, just days before his death, Pope John Paul I is said to have summoned a confidant and whispered something that remains unrecorded in official Vatican transcripts. According to a private diary later discovered, the Pope said, "They are not gone. The Templars guard us still, but not for our sake, for the truth's." He died that night under mysterious circumstances. Candle: The Awakening. Now, in the digital age, fragments of ancient texts are surfacing again, in code, in art, in architecture. Perhaps the truth can no longer be contained within walls or vaults. Perhaps it is already awakening, in those who dare to question, who dare to seek. And maybe that is what the Templars intended all along. Not to hide the truth, but to preserve it until the world was ready to face it. Today, their symbols reappear in documentaries, architecture, even corporate emblems, and beneath the Vatican, sealed behind timeless stone. A faint sound is said to echo, like a heartbeat waiting to be heard. A light beneath the altar. A whisper beneath the crown, and the echo of a promise that refuses to die. The last page of the Codex Veritas bears only a single Latin line: Veritas resurgit. The truth will rise. Milky Way: The end or the beginning? 700 years after the fires of Paris, the legend of the Knights Templar continues to burn brighter than ever. Maybe their greatest treasure was never gold or relics, but the courage to preserve truth, even when the world feared it most. And perhaps the real secret of the Vatican archives is not what lies within them, but what they've been hiding from us all along. Clapperboard: If you've reached the end of this journey through history and mystery, thank you. Your curiosity keeps the past alive. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Speech balloon: What do you believe lies beneath the Vatican? Thumbs up. Don't forget to like this video. Dove: Share it with those who love hidden history. And Sparkle: subscribe to our channel Dreamecho Stories for more cinematic tales that reveal the secrets time tried to bury. Until the next story, truth always finds a way to rise.
locked in the secrets of the Vatican remain untouched, waiting for the next soul who dares to open the door.